Hi there. This monologue episode is all about efficiency. I'm sharing several of my favorite books, tools, and management hacks that have made a difference in the way I operate, both as a manager of my own time and as a CEO of my business. Don't take this like I have it all figured out or that every day in my business everything operates at this perfect level of efficiency. That's not the case. I'm learning, experimenting with methods, and implementing right beside you every day. Whatever time of year, set of goals, or workload, your time is your most valuable asset. What you do with that time is the determining factor of whether you move closer to accomplishing your goals and how fast you do so. In episode 6, Lacey Langford mentioned that she uses the Pomodoro method kind of to gamify tasks and making it feel like a race against the clock to get things done. If you missed that episode, make sure you download it and set it to play next. That episode was a hit. And since there are many other books and methods that can help you be more efficient, it's important that you're at least aware of your options, which is why you're here. I caution you not to try to implement all of these methods at once. Absorb the episode once through and jot down what resonates or what you might imagine would work best for you or your business. Then just read one of the books that I mentioned or implement just one of the methods this month. If you try to do everything, you'll result in doing nothing. First, let's differentiate between efficiency and effectiveness. Peter Drucker's book, The Effective Executive, introduces this dichotomy. Efficiency is doing things right, while effectiveness is doing the right things. By reframing your professional and personal productivity into effective tasks that move the needle the most, innovation, delegation, and prioritization come into play. One of the keys to efficiency is prioritization. In his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey introduced the time management matrix, categorizing tasks into 4 quadrants. Urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important. By categorizing your business's initiatives using these 4 quadrants, you'll see clearly what you and your team should be focused on this month and throughout this quarter, and then what you might explore later. Using this matrix on your daily tasks as a leader will also help you focus on what truly matters and eliminate distractions. I'm betting your personal to-do list will look much differently if you prioritize tasks by importance and urgency. Next, capture all your ideas and tasks in an external system as a way to declutter your mental space. As suggested in David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, by not having to remember all of your to-dos or, if you're a visionary, all of your wild and crazy big ideas, you can focus on execution rather than trying to remember everything. There are many project management and customer relationship management, CRM, options available out there. Start with what you know and what you're comfortable with. Maybe try a free trial that's out there. My team uses Asana right now, which is primarily a project management tool. At first, I was the one entering projects and all the tasks that would take to complete that project in Asana. Then I delegate certain tasks to contractors based on their expertise. Now, I send my big picture idea to my online business manager, and she creates the project, divides it into smaller tasks, and assigns it out to the qualified team members. I remember when I brought her on how just the change of being able to tell a single person about what I wanted to happen and then having her do the tedious work of creating task lists and delegating to each team member, That saved me at least 5 hours a week. At this point, 3 years later, her expanded capacity in that role is an even greater time saver for me. I can send her a 5-minute Loom video detailing a new client agreement and what our team is and isn't responsible for, due dates of the first episodes, and what the client and I have discussed. And then boom, she sets the rest of it up. Checklists are in Asana for each contractor, due dates for each step are assigned, and some tasks are even assigned to me. And the magic, I don't worry or even think about it again until one of my assigned tasks' due dates rolls around. This allows me as the business owner to have free mental space to get the next big contract, seek speaking engagements, record my own podcast, or whatever the next initiative is. So, what do you do if you have to do something but you don't want to, or you're procrastinating for some reason? There are 2 time-bound rules I fall back on often. One is the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. She explains in her book, The 5-Second Rule, that if you have an instinct to do something, take action within 5 seconds or your brain will kill it. This means you have to physically move into action toward executing the idea that you just had, because your brain's desire to take the easy road will actually talk you out of taking that action. Whether you brush it off as something you'll do later, or it's too hard, or that idea was just plain crazy, that could never happen. What really happens if you don't take action within that 5 seconds is that your brain just convinced you to do nothing. This stems from a concept called a bias for action that was discovered in 1977 when a couple fellas began research that later became their book, In Search of Excellence: Lessons from America's Best Run Companies. You've probably heard of it. Mel Robbins has simply done an excellent job of passionately modernizing and reframing this concept so that we can each see how it applies to our daily lives. A bias for action is actually something that Jeff Bezos lives by. Another thing I use to make me feel really productive is called the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just do it immediately. This prevents small, tedious tasks from piling up and consuming more time later. For me, this often applies to emails, texts, requests from my team, finding or labeling a file, little things that can seem to eat up your day. Sometimes if I really don't have 2 minutes, like I am late for a meeting, I will put off these items and come back to them during a block of 30 minutes or so later in the day to knock them all out. Otherwise, say I open my inbox and there's 87 messages. I go through prioritizing using the time management matrix, sending things to my admin, and then knocking out things that will take less than 2 minutes to execute. Again, this is a move toward creating free mental space, because if all of these minute tasks are done, I don't have to think about them again, and I can go fry bigger fish. I mentioned delegation a few times already in this episode, but much like the time management matrix we talked about earlier, I use a decision matrix known as the 4 Ds of productivity. Once I determine the most urgent and important tasks for my day, they get categorized as either do, defer, delegate, or drop. Using either of these matrices is powerful and will change the way you manage your day and your business, but using them together creates even more potent results. If I've already determined an initiative is both important and urgent, it's on the list for today, this week, this month, whatever. That big initiative likely has several smaller tasks beneath it. This is where it gets exciting, because some of those tasks are your expertise and required of you. No one else can do them. Everything else, though, gets delegated, deferred, or dropped. When you write out a list of 20 tasks that make up this big picture idea, does it really need all 20 of those tasks? Maybe a few of them are ineffective or outdated or unnecessary. Delete a few, delegate the rest, and defer a few towards the end of the week. In the 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss emphasizes the importance of outsourcing non-essential tasks to free up your time for strategic activities. As a general rule, I try to find something, just one thing I can delegate to someone else each day. That might be a task to my online business manager or a contractor on my team. It might be asking my husband to pick up groceries or decide what we're doing for dinner. Or it might be having my kids put away their own laundry. It doesn't have to be a big deal to start. But if you start delegating one new thing to someone else each day, you'll have 365 fewer things on your to-do list in a year. I don't know about you, but I am amazed at the exponential power of just that one decision. Speaking of amazing, I have a fellow CEO that I've learned a ton from, Rachel Rodgers of We Should All Be Millionaires. My biggest productivity takeaway from her is to prioritize what she calls million-dollar decisions. This could be a decision that solves a little annoyance, like a squeaky cabinet, getting that oiled so that you're not annoyed by it squeaking anymore. Or it could be something bigger, like hiring a VA, a personal assistant, or housekeeper, so that your time and energy, mental space, can be clear and focused on the big stuff. She emphasizes prioritizing money-making activities over busy work. When you look at your to-do list, can you pick out things that have a direct correlation to your income? Those tasks should have a higher priority than the tasks that don't impact your bottom line. Pretend you're an attorney if you have to. Identify tasks that are billable, that are directly contributing to revenue generation, and tackle them first. Depending on the type of business you own, email and social media might quickly get noticed as items that should be just like pushed down lower on the list of priorities. Although it's still important to respond to emails and maintain this presence on social media, it's also important to set boundaries around when you're on and how much time you spend on these things. Establish specific times to check your inbox and engage on social platforms. 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., for example. If you feel the need, create an auto response message detailing the times and dates you check and respond to messages so that people will know what to expect. Tim Ferriss has great advice on minimizing the time you spend in your inbox in the book I mentioned earlier, The 4-Hour Workweek. Something I'm also guilty of is diving down a rabbit hole for hours, researching and refining something rather than just getting it done. Parkinson's law states that any task will take as long as you allow it. So if you have 3 hours to do something, it will likely take up all 3 hours. I still struggle with tasks taking me longer than I like, but I started using a desktop timer to keep me focused on a single task at hand. For example, when I set a desktop timer for 10 minutes to do a specific task, that means no checking email, responding to comments on social, or even answering messages from my team in those 10 minutes. All I'm allowed to do is the thing for which I set the timer. Speaking of email and social media, the desktop timer is an excellent way to allow yourself to perform those online tasks, engaging with comments, liking reels, sharing client work, and DMing prospects for a specific window of time. This really helps me because when the time is up, the beep of the timer scares me back to reality and insists that I switch to the next to-do for the day. Last but not least, the habit I'm most proud of and practice most consistently is ending my day by planning for tomorrow. This concept is explained in Chapter 2 of Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy and throughout Gino Wickman's book, Traction. Before wrapping up your day, take 5 minutes to write down your must-dos for the next day. Include meal breaks, times for meetings, include start times and end times for anything that you need to do. Do everything you can to realistically map out the following day. This way, you can already start to see how much time you really have and what needs to be delegated so that you walk into your office the following day with a clear plan. Planning today for tomorrow sets the tone for productivity. Efficiency isn't about doing more. It's about doing more of what matters. By implementing these strategies, you're creating structure, implementing boundaries around your time, and thus creating mental space for the critical actions that move your business forward. I'm with you, working each day to find the methods and the combination of structure and support to boost my own productivity, depending on what meetings and deadlines I have and what I personally need each day. In 4 years of working to get more efficient and more effective and produce better episodes for my clients, I've experimented with several of the methods mentioned in this episode. Sometimes one works better than the other, depending on my mood or the client workload. If you're keyed up to be more productive or effective with your time, I'm excited for you. But remember, take this slow. Learn about and implement one method thoroughly before jumping to the next one. And let's be clear, it doesn't matter how effective you are if you're working on the wrong things in your business. So remember the difference between efficient and effective. Remember what Rachel Rodgers says about putting money-making tasks first. Efficiency is doing things right, while effectiveness is doing the right things. Our effectiveness as business owners is all about avoiding distractions and staying focused and productive on the tasks that matter.